What's going on, everybody? Cleopus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, I'm going to be going over some reasons why you might not want the Motorola Moto G Stylus 5G 2023. Now, honestly, this is probably going to be a pretty short video because this is a really good phone and there's really not that much I don't like about it. In fact, just keep in mind, the things I will be going over are pretty minor stuff, so if you're expecting any major red flags here, then again, keep in mind, I am warning you right now, this video is naturally just a little nitpicky, so yeah, keep that in mind. But if you have been watching my videos for a while, you know the drill. Every phone, even the really good ones, do have some drawbacks, and the Moto G Stylus 5G 2023 is really no exception. Now, as always, if you do end up wanting to learn more about this phone, be sure to check out the description, where I am linking to several other videos about it, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But without further ado, let's get into it. So my first reason why you might not want the Motorola Moto G Stylus 5G 2023 is because it doesn't have wireless charging. Now, to be fair, when it comes to phones that aren't flagship phones, very few of them do. I mean, there's the Samsung Galaxy A series phones like the A54 5G, for example, that's pretty much around the same level as this. That phone doesn't have wireless charging either. It's really only just the flagship phones, and then the weird ones like the Visible Midnight and some Cricket phones. And those phones really seem to only have wireless charging as more or less kind of a gimmick. So in general, most normal mid-range phones are not going to have that feature. So if you are coming from maybe an older flagship phone, for example, and you're expecting this phone to have wireless charging, then just keep in mind, unless you're getting a higher end device, even at this point in 2023, most phones are not going to have that feature. My second reason why you might not want the Motorola Moto G Stylus 5G 2023 is because compared to its predecessor, it is a bit smaller. So with this phone, we are getting a 6.6 inch display with a 20:9 aspect ratio, whereas with the Moto G Stylus 5G 2022 at 6.8 inches with I think a 20.5:9 aspect ratio. As you can see, the 2022 is a bit larger, so if you are someone who typically prefers a larger display, then this might be a little disappointing for you. But on the other hand, I feel like at 6.6 inches, the display we're getting here is at least decently large, and in general, if you're consuming content, doing stuff like watching videos, reading, browsing the web, using social media, stuff like that, even though it's not quite as large, I do think the display is at least decent. And I know for that matter, some people actually prefer smaller displays, so if you are someone who wants something a bit more compact, then this phone being a bit smaller might be a good thing. And in general, again, even though it's not quite as large, even if you are looking for a larger display, I would definitely still not consider a 6.6 inch display to be small. At this point in 2023, it is more or less average. So despite maybe not being ideal for some people, in general, I do think the display we're getting here is a pretty decent size. Now, my third reason why you might not want the Motorola Moto G Stylus 5G 2023 is the long-term software support. Now, for me personally, this is the first one that's really in and of itself actually a pretty good reason why you might not want to buy this phone. But just keep in mind with this phone, despite having Android 13, which is, to be fair, the latest version of Android as of right now, when it comes to major updates in the future, yeah, on one hand, it is pretty possible that it will eventually get Android 14 when it comes out. I feel like it'll be a while after the original release, probably close to when Android 15 comes out, if it even gets it at all, because in general, when it comes to major updates, Motorola is honestly kinda unpredictable, so you really never know. I remember the Moto G Pure, which in case you don't know is a pretty low-end phone. That phone got the update from Android 11 to Android 12 at the end of 2022, and I was pretty surprised by that. And the Moto G Stylus 4G 2022 also got the update from Android 11 to Android 12. So to be fair, Motorola does give their phones some major updates, but if you are someone who wants to keep your phone for multiple years and have the latest version of Android the whole time, then you will definitely be better off with something like a Samsung or Google phone, because those phones get at least 4 years of software support, whereas with Motorola, again, it's kind of unpredictable. So on one hand, it does have a really good software. I really like Motorola's kind of stock Android look, and things do run really well. But if long-term software support is really important to you, then you definitely can do better. My fourth reason why you might not want the Moto G Stylus 5G 2023 is because when it comes to video recording, despite actually being able to record 4K videos in the rear camera, which is pretty impressive, it can only record in 1080p in the front. And while honestly I feel like for most people this is really not going to matter at all, because I know not everyone cares about recording 4K videos. If you're doing maybe like a vlog or something like that, maybe you're a content creator, for example, in that kind of situation, you might want to record selfie videos from time to time and have them be in that higher resolution. But unfortunately with this phone you can't do that. So in general, I feel like if you're recording a lot of videos videos and that's really one of the main things you're doing with your phone, you're most likely going to be better off with something like the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G, for example, that is similar to this phone, but it can record 4K videos in the front, whereas again, with this phone, in the selfie camera, it does max out at 1080p. That being said though, I will give credit where credit is due. With the Moto G Stylus 5G, again, it can record 4K videos in the rear camera, which is a feature they took away with the Moto G Stylus 5G 2022. In fact, the last time I saw a Moto G Stylus phone, or really any Moto G phone for that matter, that could record 4K videos, it was the Moto G Stylus 4G 2021. The 5G 2021 for whatever reason couldn't. So with this phone, I am glad they brought the feature back. And then finally, my fifth reason why you might not want the Moto G Stylus 5G 2023 is the display technology. Now, this is really only going to matter if you have something to compare it to, because by itself I do think the display is really good in pretty much every way, but compared to some of the competition, like the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G for example, the display technology is not the greatest, because with a lot of higher end mid-range phones like this, I say higher end mid-range because it's over $300, but still definitely on the affordable side. But anyway, with a lot of phones like this, they're going to have an OLED or an AMOLED or something like that, whereas with this phone we are only getting an IPS LCD, which granted is definitely not bad in and of itself, but despite this, compared to something like an OLED or an AMOLED, the viewing angles are not as good. So if you're outside in the sun for example, or really in any kind of bright area, this phone compared to others could be a bit harder to see. It might not be quite as bright either, and the colors with something like an AMOLED or an OLED are usually a bit more rich and vibrant. So overall, if you are looking for that more premium kind of experience, if you're really consuming a lot of content, or maybe you're going to be outside a lot, this is definitely something to think about. But again, this really only applies if you're comparing it to something like a Samsung Galaxy A54 5G or a Google Pixel 6a or 7a or something like that, that actually does have an OLED or an AMOLED, because again, by itself, for an IPS LCD, the display here does look really good. But those were some of my reasons why you might not want the Moto G Stylus 5G 2023, and as you can tell, there really aren't that many reasons why you might not want this phone. Sure, if you have super high expectations, if you're coming from like a Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra or maybe an iPhone or something like that, then obviously this phone will feel like a bit of a downgrade, because those are $1,000 flagship phones, whereas this phone factory unlocked at absolute full price is going for $399. So definitely completely different classes there. But if you are looking for a mid-range phone that has a great display, really good performance, a really nice camera, plenty of storage, a great battery, the latest version of Android, and features like NFC and a stylus, you're definitely not going to go wrong with this phone. Now once again, if you do want to learn more about this device, definitely check out the description, where I am linking to several other videos about it, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Kalipis Tech on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, I will see you in the next video.